Belphegor. Camelin was a small, unassuming town nestled deep in the Appalachian Mountains. Its forested trails and mist-laden mornings drew hikers and photographers in droves. But beneath its postcard-perfect exterior lurked a history few dared to discuss, a history tied to an ancient legend. The townsfolk whispered about Belphegor, one of the 7 princes of hell, a demon known for his cunning and deceptive nature. They said he thrived on human laziness, manipulating the weak-willed into ruin. Decades ago, strange occurrences had plagued Camelin: disappearances, inexplicable accidents, and a creeping sense of dread. It all culminated in a horrific event known locally as the Burning. An old church, its congregation inside, went up in flames one cold November night. No one survived and no cause was ever determined. The church's ruins became a taboo subject, avoided by all. That is, until Avery Harlow, a curious college student with an appetite for the occult, arrived in Camelin. Avery had heard about Camelin's dark history from a professor who specialized in folklore. It was said that Belphegor's influence could still be felt in the town, particularly near the site of the old church. With her camera and a notebook, she decided to document the legend for her thesis, ignoring the warnings of the locals. "Don't go poking around where you don't belong," an elderly shopkeeper advised as she purchased a map of the area. "The forest keeps secrets better left alone." Avery smiled politely, but dismissed the warning. She was a skeptic, after all. Demons and curses were relics of an ignorant past, she believed. On her 3rd day in Camelin, she ventured into the woods where the church once stood. The trail was overgrown, the air heavy with an unnatural stillness. As she approached the site, the forest seemed to darken, and a foul odor, like sulfur, wafted through the air. The church ruins were haunting. Charred stones jutted out of the ground like skeletal remains, and a warped iron cross lay partially buried in the dirt. Avery set up her camera, snapping photos of the eerie scene. "Belphegor," she whispered mockingly, the name tasting foreign on her tongue. The air shifted. A growl resonated from the shadows. Avery froze, her pulse quickening. "Hello?" she called, her voice trembling. "Nothing." Shaking off her unease, she began to explore the area further. That's when she found the artifact, a weathered journal half buried under rubble. Its leather cover was cracked, the pages yellowed and brittle. The handwriting inside was frantic, scrawled in a language she didn't recognize. She felt a strange compulsion to keep it. Back at her rented cabin, Avery examined the journal. As she flipped through its pages, the words seemed to shift, almost as if they were alive. She couldn't read the text, but the symbols, a combination of pentagrams, runes, and grotesque illustrations, unnerved her. That night, the nightmares began. She dreamed of a tall, shadowy figure with elongated limbs and a face obscured by darkness. Its voice was a low, distorted whisper, promising power and knowledge in exchange for something vague yet unsettling. When Avery woke, she dismissed the dream as a product of her overactive imagination, but the whispers didn't stop. Over the next few days, she became increasingly obsessed with the journal. She stopped eating and sleeping, spending hours poring over its pages, sketching symbols she didn't understand, and muttering words that felt foreign yet oddly familiar. Her dreams grew more vivid, the shadowy figure now addressing her by name. "You've already begun the bargain, Avery," it said one night. "Let me show you the truth." The next morning, Avery felt an inexplicable urge to return to the church ruins. She packed the journal and her camera, her mind foggy and her body heavy. The townsfolk watched her departure with quiet dread, as if sensing her fate. When she arrived at the site, she felt a strange energy coursing through her veins. The journal seemed to hum in her hands, its pages flipping open to a specific symbol. "Belphegor," she murmured. The ground trembled, the air filled with a high-pitched screech that made her ears bleed. The shadows around her deepened, coalescing into the tall figure from her dreams. It was horrifying. Its body seemed to shimmer between physical and spectral, its face a shifting void that reflected her deepest fears. "You've summoned me," it said, its voice an evil growl that vibrated through her bones. Avery tried to scream, but no sound came out. "You sought knowledge, power, and understanding," the demon continued. "And now you must fulfill your end of the bargain." I didn't agree to anything," Avery stammered, tears streaming down her face. "Oh, but you did. By taking the journal, by speaking my name, by returning here, you've invited me into your world." The demon extended a clawed hand toward her. "Now surrender yourself, and I shall grant you all that you desire." Terrified, Avery realized she had one last chance to resist. She hurled the journal into the crumbling church foundation and screamed, "I reject you!" The demon laughed, a sound so chilling it seemed to freeze the air around her. "Rejection? Foolish mortal, you've misunderstood." Before her eyes, the shadows around the demon split, revealing the truth. It wasn't targeting her at all. Belphegor's gaze turned upward, and Avery followed its line of sight. The entire town of Camelin was visible from the church ruins, nestled peacefully in the valley below. "You were never my goal," the demon hissed. "But your invitation has freed me. Camelin will suffer, and you will live to see it." With that, the demon vanished, leaving Avery in a broken heap. She scrambled down the hill, her legs barely carrying her. When she reached the edge of the forest, the town was already in chaos. Buildings were ablaze, people screamed as shadowy figures dragged them into the darkness, and the sky burned an unnatural red. Avery fell to her knees, horrified by what she had unleashed. And then she heard it, a faint, mocking whisper in her ear. "You were always part of the plan.